Welcome to the Future Generations Podcast, providing you with the world-changing content necessary to inspire you, your family, and our planet to a life of optimal health potential. We'll help you make the choices that powerfully influence the lives you bring into this world. It's time to strengthen our resolve to do better now and for our future generations with your host, Dr. Stanton Hom.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Future Generations Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom. This guest, Robert Michael, is no stranger to the Future Generations community. We're going to talk about easily the single most important topic that I remember meeting you, Robert, at the Health Freedom for Humanity Symposium, and you were talking about how you may buy a home, but you don't own your home. Like, you don't own the land. You don't, like, this kind of understanding that we get, right? Like, we've somehow allowed ourselves to pay taxes on the land for the home that we just bought and owned, and somehow we have no concept of that lifelong enslavement where, you know, once your home's paid off, you still pay taxes, right? Like, that was the first time that I had heard like that's actually not just not right, but the fact that was one form of slavery that we could never really get around, except you know how to do that in a lot of respects. This concept of economic debt slavery, this DIDTOO.org, this court case, this entire movement that you're working on, what I love about it is you're going to show people one of the biggest blind spots that they are staring right at, that when you pull the curtain away, they will never be able to unsee, but it is the most ubiquitous, nefarious, long-term, endless form of slavery that we could ever experience, and you're aiming to take it down.
Pretty much.
So let's just get into it, man. This is something that I've studied. I mean, since that day that I met you, I have not stopped studying, and you've been on this mission for over 15 years, and I can't wait to hear a little bit more about it because I always learn when I'm with you, and I can't wait till our listeners get to support you in this mission.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on for that, brother, because the whole point today is to really get people to understand what's going on and to ask that people help us and donate, because we can't financially overcome this thing on our own. We need it. We need everybody. And that's really what the purpose of this interview is about. And so let's get into what is economic debt slavery. And what people don't realize is, you know, when someone else owns the money system, and you're basically being given their money to use, you don't really own anything. It's really that simple. Now we can say, oh no, you know, I paid for my house, I paid for my car, I own it outright, this and that and the other. But take the car, for instance, you don't own that. You gave the title to the state. You hold a certificate of title, which certifies that one is in existence, but you don't have an original title. The state gets that, and all you have to do is go to your local car dealer, anybody, and ask them, what do you do with the manufacturer's statement of origin? And they'll say, well, we send that to the state. Well, that's the title. Well, what do you mean you send that to the state? If I pay cash for the car, don't I get that? Oh, no, sorry. By law, we have to give that to the state. Well, wait a minute. How's the state get interest in that? How did they get in the middle? You see, this is the whole underlying type of maneuvering that goes on. And what happens is we don't have any money. The United States and any government doesn't have any money unless it goes and gets a loan from its central bank. Okay, that's why their notes, and on the Treasury website, it'll tell you Federal Reserve notes are obligations of the United States. An obligation is a debt. The United States has a debt. Well, to who? Well, who gave them the notes? Well, the Federal Reserve. So the United States doesn't have any money. It's in debt. And what it does is it passes that debt on to you and me, and we think that we actually have money. Right now, a lot of people are talking about the banking crash and everything that's coming. There's a lot of talk about the banking system completely crashing so that they can bring in all these new government currencies and everything. They're reorganizing the debt. So never is it more important to expose this than now, because we'll never, ever be free unless we stop taking their money. And people go, well, how does that work? You have to have money. So the first concept is unwrap your mind around the fact that no, we don't need money. Do the birds need money? Do the deer need money? What has happened is these elitists who run the money have bought up everything in the world. So now we have to go to them and beg them for it, and they can just go, oh, we're just gonna cut it all off. We're just gonna cut the money system off, and you guys, fight for it. Well, why should they be doing that? Why should those at the top in this capitalist type thing be doing that? So what we've discovered is in order for the government to actually apply these concepts for these elitists, if you will, there's no proof of that yet. But in order for them to supply the money, they have to give something over for collateral to get the loan, to raise the debt ceiling, to get more money. The collateral is your labor, it's my labor, it's everything that we've signed up under our social security number. Social security, right? You got to look at the terms. So what we've discovered in our 15 years is that everything that they're doing and the money that they're getting comes from you. Without you as the collateral, they can't get the money. So what they're doing is whenever you sign up for something, a driver's license, court case, no matter what the issue is, professional licenses, birth certificates, birth registration, these are all being collateralized. They're being traded in mutual fund investment accounts. And we have the proof of that. So it's not even a question anymore. We have the proof that these accounts are being put into these mutual funds, and it's making. If you could see, it's incredible. If you could see how much one mutual fund is for one courthouse. Okay, so what we've done is we've pulled QSIP numbers, which are tracking numbers on the security on the court cases. Some of these are in mutual funds that are worth $16 billion, and they're not openly traded. These are private trades going on of public interest, yours and mine, that we were never told about. And that's where the linchpin is. Fine if they want to trade and make money and do all that, but if they're using our name, which they are, they have to disclose that to us, and they never did. Mm-hmm. So there is no debt because there's trillions of dollars on the private side that they're making from these mutual funds that could easily wipe that debt out. Wow. But you can't control people unless you control their resources and their money. That's how they maintain control over us. And we think that these overlords are doing this, that, and the other with these different legislative acts, which they are, but they only apply because of the way that this construct is with the money system. And I know that's a lot to wrap someone's head around, for people to wrap their head around, but that is in short what is actually going on. So I've brought this to attorneys over the years and they don't want to hear it. They don't, oh, that's not how it works. Well, now that we have proof, we do have attorneys that are willing to go in and say, okay, number one, this is very dangerous, right? They're going to look to take our heads off, essentially. So our families are at risk, myself, the team, and so there's security issue. Number two, they said, look, it could take us up to $1 million to litigate this thing. Okay, so what we decided to do was we said, okay, litigation will happen when the time is right, when we have the funding to do it. That's why we're asking for donations. But beside that, we want people to get involved. So what we're doing is we're developing a legal process, administrative process, where people can actually put their congressmen, senators, governor, or attorney general on notice and say, hey, this is happening, this is going on, and I'm just putting you on notice, and I'm with this team, the DIDTOO, which stands for Divine Inheritance Defense Team on the Offensive. And what that means is our divine inheritance is our labor, our life force, our right to be free. And they've taken that and collateralized it and put us under a debt system so that we are subservient to that contract, and our divine inheritance has been stolen from us. So what we're saying is we're here to defend it, and we're going to do it in an offensive way. All right. So yes, we're going to defend it, but in an offensive way. So that's where we came up with the DIDTOO offensive.
Robert, I heard, if you don't mind me just chiming in.
No, go ahead, because you know me, I'll keep going.
I've heard that the birth certificate alone is some sort of agreement of like a prepaid
Yeah.
labor. Yeah, it
Yeah.
like prepaid some 20 years of labor as we are a quote minor of a certain amount that just gets deposited into this account, essentially this like master account, something like that. That's to the order of like $100 million. And it's such a gnarly experience. I don't know if you've confirmed that or if you've seen that or if that's something that you're seeing as well. But it's not just that, right? Like you're saying that every time your social security number essentially goes through the system of life, which we think is just life, right? We don't recognize that behind that is this this entire bond system, this entire labor system, that a court case isn't just, oh, pay, you know, we'll let you off if you donate $500 to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. What's the reality behind that is that court system is making a ton of money. And it's not just what the legal fees are. It's not just, your fine. It's not just hourly wages. It's on the back end because can you describe that back end maybe a little bit more intricately?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the theory that there's a pot of money when you're born and the birth certificate is a representation of the bonding of your labor, we don't have any evidence or proof of that yet. However, what we do have evidence of is more along the lines of what you were just speaking about, where when we do have evidence and proof of when a court case is initiated, what the state does is they monetize that. They turn around, they use your name, and it has to be your name on there because they can't create a debt instrument any other way. So the way it works is, and I believe it's very much the same with the birth certificate, like you were talking about. And we know that because we do have evidence to this degree. We just don't have the evidence to the degree, oh, there's an actual bond. We don't have that. But what we do have is it shows that once you're registered, or once there's a court case initiated, or once you get a driver's license, we're about to find out how long it takes them, but typically not long after that's created, they put the account itself into a mutual fund, okay, into some sort of mutual fund that we have proof of. And that might be a 30-year. We don't know what the terms are. Sometimes we see they're in 30-year mutual funds and things like that, where that particular instrument, whether it's the application for the driver's license, the registration of the birth, whatever that instrument is making them tons and tons and tons of money on the back end that we don't see. Now, we can't say it's ours, but what we can say is if my name is on it, I obviously have an interest in it. You see, so so if you think about it, like we've looked at some court cases, like I said, there's 16 billion in that mutual fund. We've looked at some court cases, there's 5 million or 10 million. Okay, ours may be a little fraction of that, but the fact of the matter is, how many of these portfolios do you have? And how much are you actually making? What profit are you making off of these? And why are we not told this? Right? That's where they get into trouble. Because what we've discovered is in order for them to do this the way that they're doing it, it all has to fall under the Commerce Clause and commercial law. And believe it or not, it's the Civil War is still going on. And I say that because the Civil War was about money. It had nothing to do with slavery until they made slavery a fit and necessary war measure under the Emancipation Proclamation. But prior to that, it had nothing to do with slavery. It was about money. And it's about paying debt, essentially. And the South was like, we're not paying your debts. And the North said, oh, yes, you are. They said, no, we're not. So Lincoln said, well, you put a gun up to him and said, well, you better get back in here because you're not allowed to secede from the Union. Well, that's illegal according to constitutional law. You can't do that. What he did, that's what they did. So what I'm getting at is we're still looking at a Civil War scenario that never ended over the debt. And these guys are getting us to pay their debt. And in order to do that, they have to create an organization out of the state that's not a Republican form of government. It is a democratic, legislated democracy corporation acting as a vendor to the federal government. And that is where things go awry. And we have proof of this. You can go to Dun & Bradstreet, look up their credit report. It says state of North Carolina doing business as the state of North Carolina. Principal office, Raleigh, or wherever their capital is. Well, how is the state of California or North Carolina located in Raleigh? That's, location. The state is the state, right? So what they've done is they've traded the old Republican form of government that is guaranteed under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. They've traded that for a business, or they've created one, I should say, another state that's a business. That state is the one applying all of these laws and legislating all of these laws for us. And the problem with that is, fine, but you're using my account to do all of this, and I didn't agree to that. You're using my instruments to do this, and you didn't disclose that to me. And I know this is a lot for people to try to understand, well, how does that affect me? Well, it actually affects every single thing that you do every day, and it affects it so quietly that you don't know. But when you see mandates coming down the pipeline, you go, they're doing this to me. Well, they're doing that to you because of this mechanism, because this mechanism has given them the authority to do with you, doing contracting between your vendorship and theirs. So this is business. It's not constitutional at that point. Oh, so sorry, you don't know that. I mean, you should know that. It's on all our laws. It's right there, right? That's how they kind of hide it. And granted, most of the people working in the government, they're not familiar with this. They don't see it. There's been very insidious plots and things to plant this in the legislation over time, one piece at a time, until we've arrived to today. Wow. Anymore, this isn't right. We got to change this. Well, if you were to change and say, well, wait a minute, government, you have no money to function unless you get it from me, unless I credit you. So if I credit you, I'm the one in charge, not you. And that's where DIDTOO is flipping this whole thing on its head. We're about to step in and say, no, you're no longer allowed to use our credit to steal from us and harm our children and our food and our air and our water. We're not going to let you do that anymore. And as a matter of fact, if you need me to pay off your debt, I can do that with the stroke of a pen. You could do it. Everyone watching this video could do it. Well, what do you mean? Well, did you ever hear the saying, they make money out of thin air? So can you. If they can, so can you. And we've proven that. We know that. We know that that's real. So
so let me ask you a question. Does this is it as soon as, so say your parents, you're born, as soon as you're moving through society, just by a matter of being born, that you're essentially part of this mutual fund velocity, whether it's your birth certificate, your registration of birth, whether like for me, I was in the military, but that didn't happen until I was 17, 18 years old. I stayed in until I was 26. So that service in the military, they pay me a wage, but I'm making the system all sorts of money as a result of deployment, as a result of all sorts of things. But when I guess what I'm getting at is, does your worth increase over time because you are operating and moving through society, whether it's your driver's license, my chiropractic license, my business license, all these ways that I essentially use my account, my social security number, my identity that moves through society, that continually is traded on this market. But what about, like, say my son? My son's a year. Like, is his account different? Or is his? I'm interested in that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this will really help to put it in perspective for people too. Okay, you look at all the child protection laws. How are they just taking over our children? They're doing whatever they want, and we seem to have no rights. I've got a teenager who got into some legal issues. And I made sure when we went into court, I said to the judge, I said, do I have any business in this? Do I have any say? Am I a part of this? No, no, you're not. I said, well, let me ask you this. If he gets fined and he doesn't have a job, who's got to pay that? He's a minor. Oh, you do. No, no, no. You just said I'm not a part of this. So I'm either a part of it or I'm not. You can't have it both ways. And if I'm not a part of it, then how did the state get the authority to act as my child's parent?
Right.
It's called the doctrine of parens patriae. Okay. The reason that happens is because when that certificate is invested or that registration from birth, when it's invested, and no one has stepped up to say that they're the priority interest holder in that account, in that created organization, the state has no choice but to take it and protect it. They don't tell you that. So there's no money being made yet, okay, but they can still use that child's Social Security account. That's why all of the child laws are all under Social Security. If you read Social Security, all the child laws are attached to Social Security, every single one. Child support, family law, all attached. They get kickbacks off it, everything. Okay. When I say they, I'm talking about the courts, and these people get kickbacks off of child support laws and Social Security. So once that child turns 18, now they can go out into the world and start enhancing that account, and they're responsible for it. State lets them go a little bit, and then yes, everything you sign adds to the value of that account. But up to that point, there is no added value being put in other than if there was an investment from the very first get-go, which would be the certificate, which is invested, which is making money. Okay. But it doesn't grow beyond that because this child can't enter contracts yet. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yes, the answer to your question is yes, there is a difference. And a lot of this is exactly why the state is able to come in and tell you whatever they want and do whatever they want with your children, is because they still have that priority interest in it in the account, and you don't. You have no interest whatsoever because you've never claimed it. You know nothing about it. That's the sad part about it.
And that's what you're helping facilitate, the claiming.
That's what we're breaking out and right in their face with the proof and everything and saying, answer this, and if you can't, you need to return it to us.
Now this is a hopefully this isn't off topic, because I don't want to detract from DIDTOO, but I've asked many people in your field this question, like we don't own our kids, like they're technically not ours, and is it this doctrine of parens patriae that is what has created that situation for parents?
Essentially, yeah.
So legally, like when we're in the hospital, legally, that CPS system isn't really there for obviously for parents, and the law enforcement that's there isn't actually for our rights. It's actually to enforce CPS essentially. Yes. Now, that is kind of the back end where I would say, I don't care what state you're in, most parents are like, they don't know how to reconcile that, right?
No, they don't.
That because we're of a specific lean, right? We love medical freedom, we love health freedom, we love making informed choices, and legally you could make a choice that's in the face of some sort of dictatorial recommendation by that medical system in that hospital setting, where they can call CPS and they can legally remove the children from your home. Yes. That is a background fear, I would say, of virtually every family. And so yep. I'm trying to make this very practical for my audience, because most people don't know.
They don't.
How to win their kids back. And I'm doing my own research, and I love your strategy because I don't know this one, but I'm learning other strategies. And at the same time, what I would say is I want you parents who are listening, because most of you are parents, to pay really close attention to this, because you may pretend that you are a sovereign, like a free man and woman. You may know all the language, you may know the common law, you may know Law of Mankind. I'm talking to those guys pretty soon, and it's like you may know all the things to do right, but in reality, a lot of this is administrative.
Mm-hmm.
Like this,
and they will trump that stuff very easily because they know you don't have a claim on anything. You don't have a claim on anything, and there's people out there teaching you not to make claims. I think that's a very bad mistake. And that's what DIDTOO is doing. We're not only making a claim, it's called staking your claim. And we're going to stake our claim, stand on it, and let them know, look, you may, because what's happening is they own the name once it's registered. Once your child's name and your name is registered through birth or naturalization, they own that, or they have an implied ownership over that name. It's implied, but no one's ever rebutted that implication and proven otherwise.
right.
So they're like, we don't care what you say, you're under our jurisdiction. Well, what jurisdiction is that? Is it corporate or is it Article 4, Section? Nobody asked this question. If it was Article 4, Section 4, you wouldn't, under the Constitution, you wouldn't have the ability to do this. So where are you getting it from? Well, it's under corporate jurisdiction, it's under commercial jurisdiction. So yeah, it's very important for people to understand this with children. And I will say this as a tidbit for people that do have children. I've gotten rid of CPS, I can't tell you how many times, but only when we're able to address the matter right away. The minute you let CPS in to get a foothold in any which way from the very first time they contact you, you're stuck. If you can nip it in the bud right from the beginning, the way that you respond to them, that you're 99, I'd say 95% of your defense is your very first communication, your very first back and forth with any agency. So because you get to make them prove their claim right up front by asking them particular questions. And a lot of people don't know these questions. And I teach this stuff, obviously, to people that are wondering from my own experience. How did I do it? But the bottom line is, yes, it all boils down to the fact that they're claiming that these children and these accounts and this everything that's Social Security number, that's all theirs. Social Security number is a federal account. It's a trust. And I'll tell you where the trust is. It's in, and how you can see where it's formed. Read the Social Security Act. It tells you who your trustees are. There's 5 trustees. I believe it's 5. I could be off. 5 to, no, I think it's 5. The Secretary of Treasury, the Social Security Administrator, 2 members of the public, and there's one other one, but they're all listed in the Social Security Act. These are your trustees. It says right here, trustees. Actually, you can go online to the federal government's website to Social Security. They have an index. Go to the index, click Board of Trustees. It'll tell you who your trustees are for that account, right? So they're just taking control of their property, but the CPS agents don't know this. Okay, so we have to, here's one thing that in the freedom community, it's really not taught. And it's a shame because it gets a lot of people in trouble. There's a thing called law in action, okay? Law in action means it doesn't matter what the law is. In that moment, that officer, agent, officer, whomever, is going to apply the policy, the law, the way that they're instructed to do it, and they don't know anything else because they're not attorneys. See, that's where we deal with issues, is not being able to translate or articulate, wait a minute, where does your authority start and stop? You're claiming to be this person, and by your action, you're going to agree with them that that's what authority they have. It's not words. It's typically actions. Oh, CPS, oh, yeah, how can I help you? Wrong. CPS, please give me your authority. Is this mandatory or is it voluntary? Which one? I need to know that before I can answer anything. Secondly, I don't have an attorney, so I'm going to have to get an attorney before I answer any questions. Don't go any further, right? The minute you say, oh yeah, well, how can I help you? Well, where's your children? Well, they're here. Bam, they got authority. You just gave it to them.
How?
Because you agreed to work with them. They're public. Your private business is none of their business until they prove what's called in law, it would be a quo warranto. What is your warrant of authority? What is your authority? You just show up in my house with a badge. I don't know who you are. There's fake police costumes everywhere. I'm so-and-so. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. And if that's the case, you're the public and this is private. So I need to see what public law you have that allows you on my private property. So I need to see the word private in your statute. They can't apply it because it doesn't apply.
Is this similar to like when our previous conversation when you were pulled over and they ask you for your license, and when you hand them essentially your license, you are entering an agreement with them and essentially working with them. And if you don't, or however we could go back to that conversation, but in a similar setting with children, it's like, this is my private home and I don't know who you are, and you are someone from the public, and until you show me that, that's powerful.
And here's the other, keep this in mind with everything, please, everyone. You don't answer any questions from any public officer without an attorney, because you don't understand legalese. That's why the law says you have a right to an attorney. Anything you say and do can and will be held against you in a court of law. You don't need them to tell you that. You must know this. It's your job to know it. So you can assert it at any time. If I give you this information, officer, CPS officer, so-and-so, are you going to put this in a report that could be used against me at some point? It could be used in court. Yes. Well, then I have a right not to give you any information because I'm not going to self-incriminate. Sorry. You know what I mean? It's not. So you nip it in the bud and don't let them beyond that line, no matter how much they threaten you with their authority, especially when it comes to the children. You know, they tried to do that with my son. And they hollered and screamed and told me they were going to do this, that, and the other. And I said, not a problem. Just let me call my attorney first. Wow. And they screamed even more and yelled at me, and we're going to come there. And I never saw them after that. This was a phone conversation. Never heard another word.
Wow. Let me call my attorney. What a powerful phrase.
It's that simple.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Tell me more, man.
Simple, but
yeah.
Not always easy and not always applicable. But so we're tired of this, right? We're tired of trying to figure out all these little self-serving loopholes, right? Because a lot of it is self-serving. Like there are people out there doing commercial law stuff, common law, equity law, trust law, all these, and that's great for the self. But what about the collective of us who are all being affected by the same underlying principles? So my whole 14 years, which I never expected to do this. I never had any inkling of doing this. I was just guided with a passion to discover the truth. My whole focus has always been, what is the root of all this? Well, I mean, geez, they tell us all the time, money is the root of all evil, you know? So I started going, what is the absolute root of this that we could pull out and it would shift everything from CPS to unlawful child support stuff that they're imposing on men and even women, you know, all these different things that we're facing, you know, unruly traffic violations. And yeah, obviously there's crime that exists. Okay. And yes, there's responsibility. So I in no way am an advocate for avoiding the law. I'm an advocate for following the law. My question is, what is the law? And where does that start and stop for them? Not for me, because I abide by it. I'm a good human being. I'm a good man. I'm good to people. Where does it stop them? So I wanted to know, what do we do? Where's the root? And that's what brought me to birth registration and everything years and years ago, where I started testing all these theories, right? With different scenarios, CPS, traffic, debts, you know, court cases left and right, just trying this stuff. And I would see, well, that worked once, but then it didn't work again. And that worked once, it didn't work again. What is the key here? And now I'm saying, okay, we have the key. We can show the key is that they're investing in this stuff unlawfully, according to Securities and Exchange Commission rules and federal law. So okay, we can theorize all this other stuff all day long, but this we can prove. And if we can prove this, the house of cards comes down on all of it.
Wow.
So it really is us yanking the rug out from underneath them, and they're not going to be happy, right? They're going to be pissed. And unfortunately, we're not made of money. And the thing that they have against us is money. So that's why we said, you know what? If we could reach audiences that are 50, 60,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, and if we had 10,000 people drop $100, and that's $1 million, you know what we could do with that as far as litigation? We could run this thing through the goal. We could set up thousands of people to have documents sending out with legal proper notice from an attorney that is drafted correctly and sent out right. And now we have a whole army of people that said we have enough. We've had enough. And here's where this class, that becomes a class action. Maybe it's even a mass tort, which is a mass damage to people. Okay, that's different than a class action. But with that many people getting involved in this, just by doing that little bit, it changes the entire landscape of this problem. I mean, it really nips it in the bud.
So someone feels inspired. They donate $100. 10,000 people do that. You guys generate $1 million. You run this case. What based upon the numbers that you are seeing when you're checking these QSIPs and you're looking at, say, court cases and driver's licenses and all these ways that essentially we run the entire economic system, what does this court case stand to gain?
Well, it stands to gain your freedom, because every one of you is worth millions of dollars that you're being robbed of and forced to work jobs that you can't stand, in under the idea that you need to make money to live, when really you're making money every day for them, which belongs to you. So it sets you 100% free at the end of the day. When this litigation is done, which, by the way, we've also set up an organization that is going to be an advocacy organization for everyone coming behind us, that will have attorneys prosecuting these things. Okay, so it's an advocacy firm. It's going to be a nonprofit. It's already in the works. And I don't want to give the name out until we actually get our nonprofit status, and that's all done, so they can't mess with us. But that's already in the works. So once this case is done, now we begin bringing all of our people through. We just strategized yesterday, and we're like, look, we've got to notify them and let them know we're bringing thousands of people, because we want them to know what we're doing, so they don't call us, domestic terrorists or paper terrorism. No. We're doing this. That's why we need your cooperation. And when I say we're doing this, it's everybody that wants to be involved. And who we're going to is the Attorney General and other high-level representatives, and with legal counsel, and saying, we're here to represent our people. Here's what we're looking at. And here's what we're going to do going forward if you don't remedy this situation. Why? Because you're at fault. And we've got the proof you're at fault. So it's pretty damn big.
It's kind of hard to. It's kind of
changes everything.
I'm curious about. A couple things. Do you think about the?
Yep.
Do you think about your life?
Everything froze up.
Oh, it did.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'm curious what you think about, as far as like your own safety. Like if you're gonna take this system down. One, I'm curious about that. I'm curious about, of all the lawyers that you've talked to, how did you come to find this one that you are essentially working with now, and what made him say, let's go, let's do this?
Okay, so the first question, yes, I definitely have thought about my safety, but God has seemed to give me a lot of intelligence in one area and none in the area of protect yourself. All I know is God's like, hey, go to it. And I'm like, we're just going to do it. If I was afraid for my safety, we wouldn't get anywhere. So I kind of block that out, but it's a reality. Right. So we're hoping that with this money we raise, we can hire protection, right? Professional protection. And don't get me wrong, we are going to be going to the government itself and saying, you need to protect us too, because this is actually, and so I want to say one thing about taking down the system. We're not taking down the government. That's not our objective. What we're doing is gutting the financial overlords. We're kicking them out because they're the ones who are running the government, and they're all private people, right? They're running it with controlling the money. We're gutting them and weeding them out, and we're becoming the owners again, not them. So we want to save the system. We want the system to function, to do its job, and we don't want to take anybody out or down. That's not our intention. Our intention, we're Americans. I mean, we're here for America. That's what we're doing, right? So there's that. My safety, yes, and the safety of the council and everything is important, and we're working on that, which is why we need donations. We need help. I mean, even if there's people in that field that want to step up and help, I mean, we're open to it. We're open to all people helping with whatever they.
I'm curious because I don't think an hour could do this entire conversation justice, right? Because it is a lot, and it's a lot to wrap your mind around. I'm curious, is there a resource that you can share with people that would help them understand the gravity of this case?
There's a bunch of resources out there that people could get on Amazon and things like that. Books like Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, Behold a Pale Horse. There is even Art of Passing the Buck, the trust book in the first volume. It's like $30. It teaches you this stuff. So there are some of those resources out there. I mean, just type in quote unquote straw man. Now you're going to find a lot of theory there, and a lot of it I disagree with, but it will give you some idea of people explaining this. And there's also a lot of truth to it. So it's kind of twofold. I'm trying to bring everybody the straight and narrow of what the actual facts that we've discovered is. But there was another question you had asked prior. I didn't get to it. I was talking about safety, and then there was one other thing.
It was about your attorney.
Oh, yes. So counsel, the attorney, has asked me not to disclose their name, whether it's a he or she right now, until we feel, okay, now it's time. And basically what happened was in 2018, I got a phone call. I was on the internet teaching this stuff. People are seeing me, social media and stuff. They want to know about it. I got a call from an attorney. The attorney says, hey, man, I've looked at tons of you guys teaching this stuff, and I can't find anyone with substantive stuff that is something I could bring into a courtroom and actually prove. He said, you're the only one. I've seen your stuff and I'm blown away. And for me, I had been dealing with attorneys for about 3 years since at that time, particularly for the business I was in, which was debt relief. And whenever I would talk to them, they would, oh, you don't have a law degree? Sorry, bye. And they want to get off the phone. They wouldn't talk to me. They would just give me this ego attitude. This gal was a 25-year litigator, came to me and said, I've been doing this 25 years. I've done international law, worked for large corporations in corporate law. I've done family law. I've done, trust law and all these different things. And man, I need to learn what you're talking about. Like, I've got my Juris Doctorate, and I need to know this. So that was validating to me that, whoa, after all these years of being kicked in the mouth by these guys saying, you don't know anything, you don't have a law degree, here comes one that is highly accredited and excellent at what he does, saying, saying, man, you're blowing my mind here. So we became friends since 2018 and realized that once we started working on stuff together, the synergy between us, because they were open-minded enough to go, yeah, this is really happening. And a lot of it is my industry, the legal industry, is actually protecting all of this. And I can explain to you that theory of why that is, but it was just an amazing relationship. And it's taken us 5 years to get to the point where we're like, okay, it's go time. We have what we need. Now we need to pull this together. And we do have peripheral support too. It's not just one attorney without support. Like we've got plenty of other people helping us. That's why it's the defense team.
That's awesome.
So that's how that came about.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it is such a massive topic, and I particularly asked you about kids because, I mean, that's just the lean of our audience, you know, but I think you could have almost like a tour on multiple different platforms that specifically talks about how this demographic or this part of society or this, you know, essentially they would all benefit if and how you win this court case. Because I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, that is our social security number essentially a like, is it like a bank account, or is it
Okay. Yeah, I can explain that. And look, I go to the Treasury website and get this stuff. So this is not crazy
not
conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
found a PDF on the Treasury website explaining how they use the account for investing purposes and what they do. And I'm not
the
an
social
expert
security
at it.
number specifically?
Yeah. Well, the account, the Social Security account, yes. What they do is they essentially hedge against that. They take it out and they trade on that, right? And on that number. And I'm thinking it's probably the court cases and all that I'm seeing now. I don't know that for sure. It wasn't in the document, but the point is they were basically saying we have the right to trade on this until you apply for benefits. Then we put your little chunk back. Okay, so there's a lot to that. Yes, the accounts are held at the Federal Reserve. That's where your Social Security is held. I've got the proof to that. So, you know, just makes sense. That's their bank. They create this account. So the Social Security account is almost like it's like a pass-through investment type account being used to leverage these trades and investments. And every time you sign something, you create a debt instrument, believe it or not, an obligation. That's a debt that can be turned into value because we have nothing but an illusionary fiat currency belief system. So if you believe it has value, then they're trading in it, it has value. That value of whatever that one instrument out of the thousands that you have is, you've got interest in that. So again, we get through this, everybody may just be getting, well, a big old fat check. Not only that, okay, we're talking millions, but believe it or not, when we do this, we bring the public debt down. And I keep saying this, I keep saying we could get rid of this public debt ceiling thing overnight if we all understood how it's actually working. And I literally could walk everybody through exactly how to do it. We could issue it and it would be gone if they would respect it. But I've done it before to discharge certain things, and it's discharged sometimes and stolen. My instruments are stolen other times, meaning they don't do anything with them and they don't give them back.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So how can you take a private instrument, number one, that has a government seal on it, it's a specific instrument that they issued to me, and take it when it's not from your state, it's not from your office, and you're just going to take it and not give it back? That's awfully interesting. So this really does set the record straight and set people free at the end of the day.
Now, when you say people will be getting, because you say, hey, we're worth millions to the system, which to me, it makes so much sense. I don't know if those of you who are listening, maybe you've heard this for the first time, right? Maybe you've never heard a conversation surrounding, you know, reclaiming our divine inheritance, you know, like it, and it sounds, but we do know that the elites are out there. We know that there are families that are behind virtually these massive entities that are pulling the puppet strings. But we never really kind of take it back all the way to our pragmatic day-to-day life,
right?
Where we don't recognize, we just think it's just the system, right?
It's just
I
the
need
way
to go
it
get a
is.
driver's license, right? I need to go get this. I need to go get that. I need to go kind of be a part of this system, because it's just what it is. That's how it works. But you don't look behind the curtain and recognize, I mean, from where I started to kind of feel it more acutely was just going to school, going to chiropractic school, and just hearing teachers, right? Teachers tell you, because if you talk to the teachers, they're generally the ones that aren't successful in practice, right? But you meet the ones in practice, you're like, holy cow, like you figured it out. They figured it out. Value creation. They figured out business. They figured out all these things. And it's an equation. It's a mindset, but it's an expert level of playing the game, right? You hire a CPA that helps you figure out how to work your numbers so that and structure your business so that you don't pay taxes in a certain way. Like there's those that understand that, and then there's those that never, right? Where I have so many friends that quit practice, and they quit practice because my teachers would always say the debt to income ratio, because school is some $200,000 to $250,000 in loans by the time you finish, and you are a slave to the system forever, because if you don't figure out that business equation, then you're essentially you're set up to fail. And then we own that. Like the person at the end user owns it. But then I started to research debt to income ratio, and like the people that have like fine arts master's degrees that go on to make $40,000 a year, but they have some several, $100,000 of debt, that you're just like, whoa, like you are literally screwed for life, because then you get a mortgage, because then you got credit card debt, then you have all these things, and every single one of them is an avenue into the system. It's amazing that Dave Ramsey's there. It's amazing that people have figured out the tool, the system, the structure, the discipline to work the system, but it's the system. Like it's not even, it's amazing that humans are that adaptable, but it's also, well, what the hell for, right? If 90% of us, like what's the statistic on business, right? Those who go into business within 5 years, 50% are gone. By 10 years, 80+% are gone. And that to us is like, well, you just didn't have what it takes. No. We all have what it takes. We are all divinely made and brought here for a ridiculously purpose. And that's not airy fairy pie in the sky, kind of ethereal talk. That is just by matter of existence. We have this infinity of divinity that's within us, and we should have a system of life that allows us to express that, exchange value, create value, and just live. But you're showing us that not only is it not set up that way, but it's set up in a way that is multi-generational enslavement that no one, maybe the small percentage, to wake up to some degree. And you're showing this court case essentially is one of those paths that says, let's take these families who control those puppet strings and let's just cut them free.
Yep.
And the system then allows for us to just do as we are supposed to.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Okay.
And if I could just touch on that before we wrap up, is first, we have to understand that it's not just the way things are. It's not. It's not just, if it was just the way things are, then everything in nature would have a similar system. And it doesn't. It simply doesn't. So the biggest step is us saying, I accept that this isn't just the way things are. It is a design, and it therefore can be redesigned in a more holistic approach that gives everyone opportunity, not only the people that are hand selected and can afford opportunity because they just have what the system requires of them.
Now, Robert, maybe it may be a more practical question. I tried to get to this earlier, and I don't think you're avoiding the question. I just think I need to ask it more directly. When you say everybody gets a check, based
Yeah.
upon, say, I'm 45 this year. I've done many things with my life for this enslavement system. Say I go through this, process. I donate to you. I donate $100. Just think about it, right? Like return on investment. Like what would
Right.
you say? Just me, where I am in my life, and based on the things that I've done, on average, based on the things that you've seen, as far as you've researched, how much somebody generates to the system over the lifetime. What would you guess? You say millions and
Man,
millions of dollars. What would you guess would be a ballpark of
I
what
would
you are
say
looking at?
each person, even on the low end, is gotta be, from what I've seen so far, in the hundreds of millions
Yeah.
and
Okay.
probably in the billions.
It's crazy, right? I was
Every
thinking
every
actually. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No. Sorry. Keep
it's
going.
unfathomable. When I saw that this portfolio with one court case in it, now granted, there could be 8,000 court cases in it, I don't
Yeah.
know, but that one portfolio was 16 billion. I looked at another one from the same county, different portfolio, 10 billion from the
It,
same county and the same court,
Same county, same court, and you don't
26
know how
billion.
many. You don't know how many lawsuits or how many court cases are in each particular portfolio.
No, we just know that that's the total that comes up through the investment platform when you look at the portfolio that it's in.
Courts are for-profit businesses. Is that correct?
100%.
Isn't that crazy? You
All
think,
agencies are
yeah,
at this point.
states, DMVs, courts, every aspect of society, you've seen the back end of them. They are not public interest organizations. Although you may go and you talk to the DMV person, you're not going to go, my license and the QSIP, you're not going to go after the DMV worker. But behind
I don't
everything,
know.
if you look at the structure of every entity in society, they are for profit businesses driving these billions of dollars through society that these elitists are pulling the puppet strings with in the background. And you're
Yeah,
telling me that is absolutely insane to me. But that lines up with every bit of research that I've learned about, is that it's
sure.
not, it's to the billions, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars that because I've learned this, man. I've learned this in a different way, right? Where the human life value, just by matter of existence, people have trained me to believe in myself as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, that you have to have this divine ordination inside yourself to know that you can write out and draft out like numerous reasons behind just building a business that serves an ever greater number of people in society. And you have to build into this gumption to just be successful. I would consider us generally successful, but the level of sweat equity and mind equity and heart and spirit equity that goes into it just to get to a level of certain success, which I am not compared to like these like elites, not even close, right? But you're telling me that just by matter of existence, by being a cog in this system, in this wheel, that we are divinely ordained and generating real money into the system to the orders of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. I bring this up because I just moved to a new city. I have never seen more lottery signs by so many gas stations. I've never seen it. It's just like, holy cow, like that's like $2.4 billion. It's like, it's this thing where it gets you. It's red numbers. It's attractive. And it's like, I played a couple times, just because it's like, it's this weird thing. But why? Because I don't get it yet. I don't get that entire thing is a facade.
Yep.
It is not how it is. What is how it is how you're describing it. That
100%.
we absolutely, with a small investment, into your work, which in my view, I have shared this from this platform and in person many times with you, that your ethics, your morals, your good nature, and your willingness just to give to people a level of freedom through knowledge, but through practical, pragmatic action is absolutely unheard of today in this freedom movement. We didn't even get to, which we don't have time for, we didn't even get to the numbers of people who have become opportunists, the people who are selling fake, hoax, common law, PMA, whatever you want to call it, stuff, masquerading it as a freedom, where I have met people who have bought them and they have this, check this card out, check this thing that I have, and you're like, dude, someone just sold you a plastic card that has nothing. Like, it literally means nothing. And you're telling me through your words, well, I still pay taxes and I still do this. It's like crazy to me that those people exist today. Yeah, and you, man, what I guess what I'm getting at is, I would love for you to just end with maybe that call to action to our listeners for what you're looking for, how we donate, and then maybe more of that kind of bigger reason as to why this is something that they should be investing in, right?
Absolutely. So in order to help us, which helps you, you'll go to DIDTOO.org, DIDTOO.org, and you can donate however much you want. Our goal is to, like I say, get 1 million, so we're protected, we can do this. That's 10,000 people, $100 each, very small donation. And we have to look at it like this. You are an asset. They make you believe you're a liability, and they put you on both sides of their ledger. You being an asset belongs to you, not them.
Yep.
But if you don't understand that and you don't ever correct it, you're always going to be a liability, no matter how much money you think you have. So we ask for that donation to correct this problem and go forward with humanity, because just like you said, Dr. Stan, I mean, my thing is this: I've never had a legal problem. I never had a reason to fight the man or go against the government. What I saw with my own 2 eyes was wrong. Yeah. It was just wrong. Yeah. And then I saw opportunists, like you said, 14 years, 15 years ago when I started, I've seen opportunists the whole time. And I'm saying, when are you guys going to do something that actually has some meaning? When are you going to do something that doesn't just benefit you, but it benefits the collective? And that's where I came to what I am and what I do today. So
I love it.
You know, if you could just, anybody watching that, look, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, that's okay. If you don't feel that it's comfortable for you to donate, then pass it around. You can at least participate by passing it around while you learn more. That helps too. You know, talk to people, get them involved, start picking this stuff apart, start questioning Robert Michael. What is he talking about? What is this? How do we, you know, do it? Because the more you educate yourself, the further we get. It's not about me gaining money, gaining popularity, gaining notoriety, gaining anything other than we get to gain it together. Because if I didn't gain it with you, what good is it?
Yeah.
I don't have anybody to come with.
I would tell you, just as a more practical, does your website also have more information for people too? Like, as far as like if they wanted to learn more, you shared a few books that people could get. Are there ways that they could kind of understand what those resources are? Obviously, House of Marcus, your organization, is one of the best in, you know, this field in terms of educating people. You guys can definitely go there. We'll make sure you have that link in the show notes. But is the website DIDTOO.org a good place to learn more?
I'm glad you asked that. The website DIDTOO.org is more just a call to action page and website. There's not a, you know, there's enough to get you started. The House of Marcus Fellowship is where we learn and we teach this stuff on a weekly basis. And, you know, there's a ton of information on there. it looks, you might go there and go, oh, this looks like some religious order. Guys, you have to jump through hoops to get into the House of Marcus because it's private. We have an NDA, we have a membership agreement. That's how you keep things private. You don't give immediate access to them. Okay, that's called private, and that is most protected from any government. I don't care what they think or try to do. We've got all our ducks in a row. So if you really want to learn deep, you would be able to go there. For the people that aren't really sure about that, if you just go to the DIDTOO site, once your email is put into the newsletter, I'm going to start doing Q&As every 2 weeks to update people on where we are with this. We will have an opportunity for people to go to House of Marcus and sign an NDA without becoming a member, and they will have document templates that will be explained to them what they're for and how to use them to help this cause. So yes, we're building this ship as we're sailing it. So it's going to that website will eventually grow out. For right now, it's pretty plain.
When you say Q&As, is that on Instagram or is that? Where
That will be
hosting those?
specific for only those that have donated and signed the NDA, just so everybody's protected. That protects me, it protects you guys.
I love
Right?
it. Okay.
And it's just going to be an NDA. You'll sign it with, your finger or whatever. We don't do click agreements. We like to actually have like some sort of mark. But again, this is all from my knowledge of years and years and watching people get attacked. The first thing that they'll do is they will take out the head or the leader of whatever organization is doing this. And I've been in groups for years and I've seen that happen, and I refuse to let that happen to us. Gotcha. So that's why these protocols are in place, and it's not just all out there right in your face. There's certain steps that we're taking.
So for all of you listening, I would encourage you, if this is the first time that you've heard Robert, go back and listen to his previous episodes on this podcast. Definitely follow you on Instagram, because you will just go off for like an hour sometimes, and it's this like tsunami wave of information. And the reason why this is important,
whoa,
you have been one of those resources for me that have really opened my eyes to, like I was sharing before, this blind spot that's right in front of us, that is the most massive blind spot that ever could exist. Whether we've been in this medical freedom movement for so long, I am absolutely versed in that. But when you look at the medical freedom and the health freedom and pharma, when in pharma is an avenue, right? Pharma is an avenue. The healthcare system is an avenue. This system that you're talking about is on the back end of all systems that exist in the world today. You want to call it, and it is a financial system, it is a labor system, it is a social hierarchy, and like the way the infrastructure system, but every single aspect of it, if it all is kind of spurring that curiosity in you, keep going, keep educating, because I consider myself radically novice, but a year turns around and you're like, whoa, like I was so new, and it just made me, like I was interested before, I got it, it made sense. And then every level you're humbled, because you're like, whoa, you peel a layer of the onion and there's a complexity and a depth, but also just like this enlivened thing where you're like, oh man, that divine ordination of your own human value, your human life value, just by matter of existence. When you peel those layers, you recognize just how deep, how you are more free just by a matter of existence than you could ever imagine. And the system that is set up to enslave you is that much darker than ever. The only way that you don't is if you choose to continue on. I would encourage you to not do that. Robert, you've been a very much I don't know how to say this. You've never forced it on me in any capacity, and I've learned through osmosis. But then I've seen some of the people that you've trained, some of my friends that you've trained and educated, and their understanding and their ability to communicate what's going on in the world today is rad. And these are, and to be frank, I'm going to keep them private because sometimes people don't like to, kind of reveal themselves too. But these are some platforms that you are probably following that you have no concept that you're following, and you're attracted to their embodiment of this freedom because it just resonates with that level of your soul and this level of what we are all at work with, in this movement. But on the back end of that is a rigorous level of education. And I've been saying to a lot of people, especially those that are in this holistic world that can kind of navigate the ethereal, and we think that it's just about mindfulness and meditation and 5D and higher vibrational experience. It is highly, highly administrative. It is highly educational. And I am coming from that lens where I can navigate a conversation about vitalism. I can navigate a conversation about self-healing. I can navigate a conversation about personal EMFs that are thoughts and beliefs and feelings that we can generate from that deepest part of our vigor with anyone. Mm-hmm. But this work is some of the most meaty and potatoes work that have ingrained in me a purpose that I have never thought that I would actually experience. I have you and many others, but you especially, to thank for that, Robert. And this mission that you are on, I'm very grateful for you. I believe in you. I will donate to you. And I'm grateful to have had this conversation. And just like he said, you don't have to get it. You don't even have to donate. Listen and share this episode. Just listen and share this up. Pass it along. Keep that wheel going, and recognize that the more you continue to educate, it is just like learning a completely new language that you can actually never unlearn. Mm-mm. Except by your own like sedation, right? You have to.
I was like, I don't want anything to do with this stuff anymore, and it was like I just couldn't.
You can't not, man.
Couldn't.
You can't not.
Couldn't. I had to go forward.
That's awesome, man. I'm so grateful for you, Robert. For those of you who are still with us listening, please follow House of Marcus. Please follow Robert on Instagram. And if it is in your heart, which I hope it is at this stage, because I know you guys, right? I've been saying, you vote with your dollars, right? The only way to never need the system, like the best way to fight the system is to never need the system. And many of you still, like I'm on Zoom, that's the system. I have an Apple computer. That's the system. We all are invested in the system to some degree.
Yes.
Robert is one of those guys that you can invest in, knowing that it is ridiculously aligned with that deeper purpose. And I happen to have experience with your attorney, whose gender will not be revealed. And I'm glad they are in our court, because there's a ferociousness, but also like a... I don't know what the right word is. Yeah.
Humility.
Yeah.
There is.
I'm grateful for you, dude.
I'm grateful for you, man. And thank you so much for doing this and being a part of this, and also for all your kind words, man. I greatly, coming from you, that's a huge, huge compliment, because I thought much of you when I first saw you at the in Kansas, not at Health Freedom. It was the year prior.
Oh, that's right. That's
and I was like, man, I love this guy. He's such a great father. He's got such heart. He cares about his family. Like this is a real man here, right? Somebody that's doing their thing, and it just. You were one of the very few speakers that spoke to me. So
I love it, man.
To hear you say that back, man, is an honor.
I remember you and your son in the front row, and I didn't even have an inkling of an idea of how amazing this relationship would be, and how grand of a human being you are, man. So I appreciate your words too.
Thank you, man.
Share this episode far and wide, guys, and find it in your heart to donate.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of the Future Generations Podcast. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. For more resources based on today's episode, as well as more ways to inspire a brighter future for you and your family, visit us at thefuturegen.com. That's all available exclusively on thefuturegen.com.